Hello, my name's Phil Lane from Stop the Traffic. Thank you for your interest in trying to do something to stop this horrendous crime which is going on around the world even as we speak. Nobody knows how many people right now are being deceived or kidnapped or forced to go with traffickers to another place where they find themselves in exploitation and what amounts to modern day slavery. They don't get paid, they can't leave, and all the rights that we take for granted are denied to them. This is the face of slavery today, be it in the sex trade or in forced labour or in forced begging, things which we may not be aware of as we go on our normal lives, but do affect us and we affect them. Nobody knows exactly how many people are being sold. The US State Department estimates about 800,000 people per year are sold across borders into slavery. The UN says that 12.3 million people right now are trapped in forced labour, and many of them are making products or making elements or parts of the products that we love to buy. The UN also says that 2.4 million people are trafficked right now. They're somewhere in the process of being trafficked. They're either right now being deceived or right now being taken across a border or to a city within their own country, or they're trapped, that they can't get away. These are guesses, but we know that it's a huge problem. A problem which doesn't seem at the moment to be getting any better. Now, these huge numbers just boggle the mind and we don't know how to deal with them. But each one of them actually boils down to individuals, ordinary people like you and me, like our children, whose hope has been taken away, whose childhood has been ruined, and who cannot escape, who can't fulfill their potential, and who are being abused. Stop the Traffic, which is now a coalition of organisations working against human trafficking around the world, began with the story of 2, 3, 4 young children who were sold in India, in the place where we were working. We were working with street children to try and give them an education, try and give them some hope, try and get them into school and keep them in school, and the struggle that is involved in that. And every now and again we noticed that people would go missing. And when we inquired, we started to discover that trafficking was happening. I think of one girl called Fatima, lived with her parents in an old concrete tube, and there were 2 kidnap attempts on her life, and up to date she's managed to escape the traffickers. Others weren't so lucky. We discovered later on about the thousands of children who have been trafficked in West Africa, from countries like Mali into Ivory Coast, which grows the largest percentage of cocoa beans that make the chocolate that we enjoy. Something really simple, something that we take for granted, that we buy on the way to work or we buy at school just to keep us going. We hardly think about it. Do I buy a Mars bar? Do I buy Cadbury's? What? But we don't think that behind all of that there's a child who can't go home, who's been picking beans and isn't being paid. Trafficking affects us all, and it's about individuals losing all hope and all chance to make a life for themselves and being abused. Only last week we were in some Thai massage parlours talking to people, trying to understand what was going on in this part of the sex industry. And one woman said to us, I was trapped in an abusive situation for 10 years and nobody cared. nobody came close who wanted to help, and that she knew of many others who right at this moment were trapped, being exploited and suffering violence, having been trafficked. You say, what Thai massage parlours, what's that got to do with us? But the interesting thing about these places is they're ordinary houses in ordinary streets, and I bet there are Thai massage parlours or brothels in your town, in your neighbourhood, that you don't notice, and the people inside may have been trafficked. We can do something. We can make a difference to end this terrible trade. Even if it's just considering, what should I buy? Should I buy fair trade? Because I know that nobody's been trafficked to actually produce that fair trade item, fair trade chocolate. We were really excited when the pressure from Stop the Traffic and others resulted in Cadbury announcing that Dairy Milk chocolate bar was going to go fair trade from this summer, and Mars have followed up with an announcement on ethical trading from next year as well, as a result of the campaign. From people saying we've got to buy ethically produced products that haven't got trafficking, it puts the pressure on the big companies who do pay attention to their consumers. We can make a difference by being interested in where the products we buy come from and what safeguards there are for the people who work to make them. 2 weeks ago, there was a story from Stop the Traffic and the organisation Oasis in Bangladesh. And this is a story of hope that we want to see repeated through the projects that we're trying to be involved in. A young girl called Amina had been trafficked from Bangladesh in her village. She used to sit outside sewing. That's how she made her money. And a local policeman would come along and noticed who she was and what she was doing. And so he decided that he would traffic her, trafficked by the policeman. So he offered her a job in India with a much larger salary. And so she agreed to go with him. He was the policeman. So he took her to the border, sold her onto a trafficker. She ended up in Mumbai. But whilst she was, the traffickers were negotiating the price for her to be sold into the brothel, she managed to get to a telephone, and she rang back to Oasis to Stop the Traffic in Bangladesh, and she said, please help me, please help me. And they were able to connect to our organisation in Mumbai, who came, found her because they tracked where the telephone call was coming from, and they rescued her, and they got her into a safe house. And right now, she's being taken back to Bangladesh, into a safe place where she can start to recover. And she was rescued before she was abused, before she was sold into the brothel. That's the kind of success story which we want to see repeated around the world. And with your help, with your support, being careful about what we buy, being aware of what trafficking is, and also reporting to Stop the Traffic when you see signs of what might be trafficking in your area, or when you're travelling. Together, we can become a great movement which will stop the traffic. Thank you.